The markets are experiencing some end-of-year shenanigans as expected. The price action is extremely choppy towards the end of this December 2024, and I'm expecting the same within the first week of January. But despite what you may see on Twitter, the bear market is not here, and 2025 should be an explosive year for crypto. In this quick update, I'll be going over how I think the beginning of the year will play out, and we'll be going over one of my most recent trades. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so taking a look at the Bitcoin chart, we can see here that we are still struggling to get back above the 95K level, and we entered a short that I talked about on this channel just a few days ago. We retested the 99.5K range several times. It acted as pretty solid support on this uptrend, and so it led me to believe that it would also act as very strong resistance should we get down to those levels, which is exactly what happened. We have now bounced from this level several times, and I actually discussed entering a short position around the 99.5K mark should the 100K level get rejected. Now, we actually did hit the first take profit, which was right around the $91,500 mark. The question is, in the short term, will Bitcoin go lower? Now, we also recently talked about the bull market support band, which now falls all the way between $75,000 and $80,000. The reason why this is important is because in a bull market, Bitcoin historically retests this level before moving on higher. You can see here that if I zoom out on this chart, we haven't retested the bull market support band in a very, very long time. And so this should definitely be on your radar. It doesn't mean that we have to drop to 80K immediately, but it does mean that we should retest it at some point. And that point could very well be early into January 2025. And this is also one of the key reasons why I am still in my Bitcoin short. As discussed on my Twitter, I closed 30% of the trade, securing very solid profit from the 99.5K level, but I still think that there is a lot more profit to be made should Bitcoin dip much further. Now, I know you might be thinking that this is a very bearish stance on Bitcoin, but the reality is we can't go up in a straight line. In the bull markets, we have to consolidate and dip to lower levels before being able to create enough steam to move much higher. And that's the scenario that I think that we find ourselves in right now with Bitcoin. So my second take profit on this trade is actually around the 87K level. Now, can we dip below this? Yes, of course, because if we actually measure from the peak, Bitcoin so far has dipped all the way down to the 91.4K level, which actually is only a 15% dip, give or take, from the high of $108,000. In a bull market, it is not uncommon to dip 20 or even 30%. And yes, while everyone would be scared if this happened, it would just provide amazing opportunity for not just accumulating Bitcoin, but also accumulating altcoins. So for this trade in the coming weeks, I am still expecting that we revisit these lower levels. Now, of course, the market always has a way of humbling us all, which is why I did take profit and moved my stop loss into profit should we bounce up from here. But overall, I think this trade is still very much on. And if making some of these trades interests you, I would highly recommend that you sign up to Weeks, which is the first link in my description. You can earn up to $20,000 in bonuses just by trading crypto as you normally would. Now, outside of this trade, if we start to look at Bitcoin dominance, we can see that we did indeed get rejected at the bottom of this trend line, which was a path discussed in a previous video. Now, the question is, will we bounce up higher and make a new all-time high this cycle for Bitcoin dominance, just as everyone starts calling for the end of the bull market and for altcoin season to finalize that? Or will Bitcoin dominance plummet from here and will we finally have the altcoin season? Well, it goes back to what I've been saying about monetary policy. I still think for us to have a sustained altcoin season, like we've seen in previous bull markets, we need the Fed to start printing money. I don't make the rules. That's just what I've observed from cycle to cycle. Now, another indicator that backs up that we are nowhere near altcoin season is actually the altcoin season index. And you can see that just at the end of November into early December, we were technically in a mini altcoin season, but I had always questioned whether or not this would last given the current state of the Fed. Now, since that most recent top at 88, we are now below 50, meaning we are nowhere near the altcoin season. And if you didn't know, for a true altcoin season based on previous market cycles, we can see that we actually stayed over into this altcoin season range for several months at a time, which is when altcoins go completely parabolic on not just their USD valuations, but also against Bitcoin. And during this dip in altcoins right before the new year, we can also see that the Bitcoin spot ETFs have been de-risking for a few weeks now, seeing the most net outflows that we've seen within a 2-week period for a very, very long time. Now, if we zoom out, should you be bearish on Bitcoin spot ETFs? Not a chance. Take a look at this. Looking at this chart, this is the assets in spot gold ETFs versus Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin ETFs is this orange line right here, indicating that it is indeed the fastest growing ETFs in history, and it's not even close. Look how long it took gold to get the kind of volume that we're seeing within the Bitcoin spot ETFs. And remember, the Bitcoin spot ETFs launched just this year. So I also mentioned that people are de-risking before the new year, and there's always a little bit of manipulation and, quite frankly, crappy price action towards the end of the year. But if history repeats itself, take a look at this chart. This is the Bitcoin price action before the last period of the bull markets. We can see here that in 2012 going into 2013, Bitcoin was relatively flat, and then we just exploded to the upside. Then in 2016, once again, Bitcoin was a little bit flat, and there was a little bit of manipulation right before going into 2017, and again, explosion to the upside. Then in 2020, we can see that right as we entered the new year, Bitcoin had a pretty severe correction before just exploding on much, much higher. And now we can see that going into 2025, Bitcoin has experienced a little bit of a correction, but so far it's just over a 15% dip, which, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is perfectly normal during a bull market. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin goes and tags the mid 80K range, but don't stress out, because this should provide an excellent opportunity for altcoins, because we're still at the period in the market where if Bitcoin corrects, altcoins correct even further. Remember that. Now, speaking of altcoins, what should you be doing? As I mentioned on X, you should be looking at coins that are holding up well whenever Bitcoin dumps or whenever Bitcoin chops around. For example, some of the coins that I have identified that have been performing quite well during this tough period in the market are Aave, Move, Pengu, BNB, and checks. Now, there's a lot of other altcoins that are actually still performing reasonably well considering the Bitcoin price action. Those are the ones that you want to look out for, because as Bitcoin gears up for what we hope will be an explosive 2025, these altcoins should perform very well indeed, because they've been holding strong when Bitcoin struggles. Now, to end this quick market update, I will leave you with this, which I found quite funny. To prepare to make it in 2025 with crypto, here's what you need to do. Get dumber. Yes, I know this sounds pretty stupid to say, but I read this tweet and couldn't help but agree. The reason being is because we tend to overthink these markets, and that ends up getting us wrecked. I'll give you an example. Some might say that me entering a short position here on Bitcoin could potentially be overthinking the markets. Now, I make it very clear in all my videos, this does not affect any of my spot positions in the bull market. It's obvious to me that 2025 will be an explosive year for crypto, and so I'm holding my spot positions steady as I continue to dollar cost average during these dips. And then on the flip side, I only use side capital here to enter these speculative positions. Now, it clearly worked out for us, and I think that we could go lower, so I'm still in my Bitcoin trade. But if you're not a trader, you don't need to do this. You can just keep accumulating high quality altcoins during the dips, and in my opinion, it should pay dividends in 2025. And as always, if you're looking to trade any of the cryptocurrencies that I'm trading, I would highly recommend that you sign up to Weeks, the first link in my description, one of my favorite exchanges in the industry, and again, you can earn up to $20,000 in bonuses. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe. Happy New Year, and I'll see you in 2025.